Building skills, hiding or disguising base services. It's base building with Daisy. So you've got your base looking pretty good, and you want to include base services such as storage, trainers, teleporters, medical, and so forth. But you want to have the services without distracting from your base theme. I'm going to show you how to do that. First, I'd like to take you to a few of my bases to show you how I've done this in the past. This is a work-in-progress base of mine, a garage set at the edge of a small city. And the services are all here and meant to all be inconspicuous or downright invisible so as not to distract. This means that the tire racks are the salvage racks. These are in order from common to uncommon to rare. Each category is alphabetical. So rather than label them, they are logically organized. There's the merit machine. The enhancement storage is all over here with no particular designations. Here's the tip mission computer, masquerading as an automotive diagnostic tool. The teleporters, well, they are invisible and silent, which works for this base because it's only going to be functional for one character who knows where the teleporters are. The teleporters are designated by vehicle or location. We have hazard zones right here behind the military vehicle. Out in the parking lot, the blue car is on top of the blue side mainline teleporter, which is here on the cement. The red car is on the red side teleporter, and the purple car is on the co-op zone teleporter. And the other zones, such as to Pretoria and the Shadow Shard, are next to the parking lot in the grass. When looking for these teleporters, just move your mouse over the area until you see a blue hand, which means there's something you can interact with at that location. Inside, you'll find a trainer in the corner. There's a quartermaster over in the wall behind the files, and the medical res is right here underneath the floor. Upstairs is an apartment. The apartment contains the tailor in a closet, of course. No base buffs or inspirations are in this base because the person the base is for didn't want them there. Now I'm going to show you another base. This is a modern-day castle based on a real-life castle in Ohio. And here the services are invisible or blended in so it still looks as much like the real-life castle as possible. But the storage is marked unobtrusively because more than one person will be using this base, and so they need to know where the storage is. So here, this is where almost all of the services are in this little room. See the white letters above the bookcases? The yellow letters on the books and the desk? And the orange bit on the carpet in front of the door? That shows you where to mouse on the carpet to find the storage container. The back wall is enhancement storage, with symbols for what kind underneath there on the wainscoting. There's a fist for melee, arrows going in every direction for ranged enhancements, a shield for defense and resistance, and then a symbol representing etc., miscellaneous, and one for general generic. The table with a peak of purple houses 2 storage tables for rares, while the floor in the doorway houses winter event IOs. Base buffs are in the corners. I have the merit machine turned around as the backdrop for my suit of armor, because a merit machine stands out in a castle. NPCs can be found in nearly every corner. Inspiration storage is in the hallway. Outside you will find the teleporters. Cars again, but this time with more obvious symbols and teleportation indicators, plus a TARDIS for the interdimensional places such as Pretoria. Oros is hiding in the fireplace, and the tip mission access is in the Arcane Oracle, which is upside down on the patio. Or rather, in the patio. And finally, this is a quick utility base I made for someone. It's just the entry room plus another small room for atmosphere. I made it a casino boss's office overlooking a casino with a vault behind. The storage is behind the wall, in logical order but with some telltale symbols. Note the money on the floor. Blends in, but when you look at it, note that it will give you the letters of what salvage you're looking for, starting with common, moving to uncommon, and then rare with the gold stacked next to it. Then the enhancement storage with icons, slightly different from the last icons I showed you because different people have different preferences. The inspiration storage is upside down on the ceiling, masquerading as security, with a grating for characters who don't fly to jump to for access. The teleporters are doors with symbols. The tip mission oracle is again upside down as the trap door, and base buffs can be seen over here. So, starting with storage, let me show you how I did some of what I did. Tech salvage storage is pretty easy to hide. If you have a thick enough wall to push it into, simply turn it around so the fenced side is facing you because that's flat, and then disable the grid, which is F1. Then sink it a touch so that the platform it's on doesn't show. Now, hold Control to keep the platform sunken, and push it back until it just barely disappears behind a flat surface. Now, Arcane Salvage's shape makes it a bit more difficult, so either disguise it and blend it in like I did with these tech racks, or do as I did in the castle and use hidden markers to completely hide it. So if you want to do this, go down to Options on the editing window and find Hidden Markers. Choose Enabled on the drop-down menu, and suddenly the world looks like this. Note the blue zone you can see now on the salvage rack. So I take advantage of the fact the front of this is angled, but there's nothing actually in that space on the visible rack. So I angle it to match wherever I'm placing it. This could be up through the floor or through a wall. Position it so that the blue is through the area where you wanted to access it, but not too far out because the blue zone does have collision, meaning the characters will bump into it if it's out too far. Disable hidden markers and voila! You now have accessible storage that's completely hidden. Now you may want to mark this in some way because, as I said, it is completely hidden. If you have a natural base, for instance, maybe use some sticks to make letters, or mark the location of each storage with a plant that doesn't have collision. For instance, you could use white roses for common, tint them yellow for uncommon, and orange for rare, that sort of thing. You can use maybe filing cabinets indoors, as long as they don't block the wall access, and decorate with items that give an indication of color for common or uncommon, or use letters or symbols, whatever works for your theme. Be creative. Now, if you use symbols or letters, I do recommend using the supergroup Tech Podium, because the letters are much smaller than the alphabet letters we currently have, and will not interfere or block a player from accessing the storage. Note, this could change in the future with future additions to the editor, and I certainly hope it does. Whatever you use, just be sure the players can still access the storage easily. Enhancement storage is very simple to disguise. Turn the table upside down, and either you have a plain metal surface or a stone surface. You can either put upright or on the floor or make into a table and decorate it as you see fit. Just be sure to leave some of the stone or metal uncovered, because you have to be able to touch an uncovered section to be able to access it, or it could have things that don't have collision across the top like these plants. Base buffs are easy to hide once you turn on hidden markers. Use the blue zone to guide you as to what needs to be sticking out and what can be hidden in a wall. Teleporters. Teleporters can be made to look like most anything. Using the interdimensional shard in Tech Teleport is probably the most widely used teleporter. The glow tells people it's a teleporter, and it's small and silent, so pop it in whatever works for your base and you've got your teleporter. Use symbols, discrete letters, or possibly props to let people know where the teleporter goes. Use F5 and change the attachment of the beacons to floor, and sync them just under the teleporter to eliminate clutter. Some people use the tech beacons with their clear picture depictions as decoration for the teleporter so they don't have to label it in other ways. Whatever is attractive and uncluttered and thematic and works is great. The completely silent and invisible teleporter I used in the garage base was the stone portal in the Arcane Teleport tab. Again, turn on hidden markers and turn it upside down. See how the blue touch zone extends way beyond the stones? Now you can sync that so that the blue zone is just above the floor. It's quite large. so keep that in mind when positioning it so you don't run into other teleporters. Use props or other cues to let people know where the teleporter is. Of course, you can also place this in a wall, if the wall is deep enough to hide the portal. Just make sure some of the blue extends past the wall so you can interact with the portal. Inspiration storage is much more difficult to hide or disguise. You can't turn it upside down because you can't interact with it that way. Both containers are surrounded by structures of some kind, making it impossible to simply sink it and sink the visible part out of the way, because then you can't access the touch zone. And the tech version also makes noise. To disguise the arcane version as much as possible, angle it and sink it so the spikes on the bottom are under the floor. Now you can hide the upper spikes with some kind of cover and still access around the chest. You can have it as an angled chest or just barely showing, but realize it does move. But placing this in a closet does work pretty well, as you can use the closet walls to cover the spikes. But nothing works really well. I would dearly love for the inspiration storage to be redesigned. Now, I already showed you ways you can deal with the tip mission computer, which can be blended in as a computer for the tech workshop, or the Oracle, which is under the Arcane Workshop tab. This can be turned over and accessed from the bottom and used as flooring. And you can also turn the merit machine around and still access it from the back plate. NPCs that give services are easily hidden in walls, especially corners. You can mark the location of these or not, depending on the aesthetic you're going for. Just position so that the front of the placement dummy is poking through whatever you are putting the NPC into, and you should be able to interact with the NPC. When placing a tailor, you might want to use a face maker instead of an icon employee, because NPCs randomly generate when you enter a base, and they vary between the models, and one of the icon representatives is a large, burly man, which might suddenly poke out of the hiding place that was working fine for the smaller model, but the face makers are both small female models, so when it varies between the two of them, they will stay hidden. You may want to sink the NPC into the floor a bit to hide the colored circle at the feet of the service NPCs. Lastly, medical services. If you want to hide this, use the Arcane Resurrection Ring and turn it upside down. Sink it underneath the floor until the shadow just disappears, and make sure it has power and control. Now characters that are defeated and come back to the base will appear right above where you sank the res ring. Note that this does not work with the Tech Medical Resurrection Ring. That will not work upside down. And there you have it. Now you know what you can do to make your base look like you want it to while still offering services. Thanks for watching. Bye.